coming? Oh, really? Ah, very nice. So it was good that we took our time to get started. Yeah. Well, we're going to be here for a while, so it's no big rush. The big rush is when you chant these mantras. Always gives me a rush. Because the quality of our consciousness depends on the quality of our impressions. And when we take in impressions through the material senses, then the quality of those impressions is also material. But the mantras have a special quality which is called transcendental sound vibration. Transcendental sound vibration means that there is no significance to these words in the material world. These words have only a spiritual significance. They don't have any material meaning. So when we hear these words, the impressions that we get from them are fully spiritual. And this changes the quality of our consciousness. You may not feel it immediately. At one time in Hawaii, I was trying to talk to a young fellow about this, and he was saying, well, I tried chanting the mantra and nothing happened. I said, really? Nothing happened? He said, yeah, I chanted it for 30 minutes and nothing happened. Well, we have in our minds how many lifetimes of material impressions? Who can count the number of lifetimes that we've been in this material world? And so our minds are full of material impressions. Our identification with the material body. Our mind full of all kinds of material desires, material thoughts, material calculations. Our identification with our form of occupation, or with the country of the birth of our body, or with the particular family, or the particular activities that we perform in this life. So many material designations that we identify with, and because of that identification, all the impressions, all the sense impressions connected with that are of material quality. Well, what am I talking about as far as quantity? Well, consider that an MP3 file runs about 1 megabyte per minute, isn't it? About 1 megabyte per minute for a 124K MP3 file, 128K MP3 file, stereo. So we have two ears, stereo, and we're constantly absorbing sound from the environment. That means the throughput that we're talking about is at least 1 megabyte a minute just for sound. And then vision is much more than that. Our eyes are extremely high resolution. If you compare it to a camera, like this video camera that we're using here today, this is about, what is it? We figured it out one time, 13 gigabytes per hour. 13 gigabytes per hour divided by, well, let's say it's 12, and divided by 60, it comes out to like 500 megabytes a minute. 500 megabytes a minute for the video. And we have two eyes, not just one. It's stereo. So we have two of those going. And then there's the bodily, tactile, and kinesthetic senses are the sense of smell, which nobody knows how to quantify because there's no meaningful measure of smell data, taste, and so many other senses. So the amount of data coming into the mind is immense. I mean, the amount of throughput it would take, there's no network, no data network that we have today that would have the capacity for the amount of sensory data. And every one of those bytes of sensory data creates an impression. So we have this enormous file of impressions in our mind. That's what the mind is. It's a file of impressions or pictures of our experience. So the quality of those impressions, taken as a whole, is what determines the quality of our consciousness. So all these lifetimes in the material world, we've been absorbing tons and tons of impressions of material life, all through the material senses, because we think that the body is ourself, or we assume that it is. So out of that, then how much time have we spent chanting a mantra? How many impressions have we collected of something that's transcendental? Actually, if we understood properly, we could be collecting transcendental impressions every moment, because consciousness is itself a spiritual experience. And we'll get to that later. We'll explain all this, why this is so. But most people aren't even aware that they're conscious. They're not even conscious of consciousness. They simply take it for granted. But it's actually the most wonderful thing that we possess. And we should appreciate it properly. So hopefully this seminar will help you do that. But anyway, how many impressions of spiritual quality does the average person absorb, even in a lifetime? Very, very few in comparison to the flood of material impressions that we have to accept through the senses and so on. And then our mind also. In our mind, we are generating material impressions by our evaluation of our sense experience. So the mind is full of material impressions, both directly generated from the senses, through the senses, and those that result from our processing that information to try to understand what kind of situation we're in and what kind of value we should, or meaning we should attach to our experience. That's another layer of impressions that are self-generated. So the combined aggregate of all these impressions is extremely large. Yet, to attain spiritual consciousness, we have to somehow collect enough spiritual impressions, impressions of a spiritual quality, to overcome the material impressions. Now, fortunately, spiritual impressions are very powerful, more powerful than materially, because they aren't subject to the degrading influence of time. In other words, spiritual things are ever fresh. I've been chanting this mantra and other similar mantras for a long time, going on 50 years now. And I never get tired of them. They never become dry. They never become stale. They never lose their appeal or their freshness, because everything that's truly spiritual is eternal, without beginning or end. So that's the difference between material and spiritual. You can ask anybody who's teaching spiritual things. You can ask your pastor down at the church, or the yoga teacher down at the local ashram, or whatever, the local Zen master or whoever. Ask them, what's the difference between material and spiritual? And most of them can't tell you. They won't be able to. I mean, they might come up with some gobbledygook, explanation. But they don't have the real knowledge of what is spiritual. So they can't help us. That's very unfortunate. There should be, like a guru on every street corner. There should be a transcendental doctor in every hospital, that can help us heal our consciousness. Unfortunately, this knowledge is very, very rare. So we're very happy that you could be with us today and share this knowledge. Now, my promise is, if you take this mantra, or any transcendental mantra, and you just chant this mantra, like, as much as possible, as close to 24 hours a day as you can. You just give up all other engagements and concentrate on this transcendental sound vibration. Within 6 months, you will see God face to face. That's my promise. That's my experience. And you can have that same experience if you're willing to dedicate yourself to this process of transcendental sound vibration. I'm not kidding. This is not, I'm not bluffing you. This is a real thing. So generally what I say to people is, okay, that's it. That's the end of the seminar. You don't really need to know anything more. Because if you just do that, you will get the highest result. And for some strange reason, people don't want to do that. They don't want to just give up everything and go to the forest and sit down under a tree and chant their transcendental mantra. But I'm telling you, from my own experience, you will come to a point where that's the only thing left. And it might happen as soon as 2012. Right? Or it might,
might want to do it beforehand.
Might even happen tomorrow. Yeah. Why? Because when our consciousness is in material quality, we are subject to the changes in the material world, the ups and downs. This is called conditioned consciousness, because the condition of our consciousness is influenced by the physical condition that we're in, or mental condition that we're in. And the thing about the material world is it's always changing. Yeah? One day you're up, one day you're down, right? One day your game is on, the next day you can't hit anything. That's just life in the material world. So